Good day to you, sir. This is Decadet Burgos Christian Gabriel Lopez, a product student under your teachings on our subject, Advanced Stream, Stability, and Stress. First and foremost, it is my gratitude to be part of your provisions and to be under of your class, as you were one of my best instructor that I ever had at UCMATC. So once again, sir, thank you and God bless for everything. Thank you, sir. Well then, back to the main objective in this video. Throughout this semester, I have learned so much, specifically a variety of seamanship related topics. In respect to our subject, sir, I will break it down into four as classified by our school's term. So first and foremost was during the prelim period. So at this period, I'm quite chill at the start as the topics involved were quite understandable, not that complex, and also it is in connection with our previous semester subjects. So to mention some of the topics that we have discussed were the ship bulking materials, its relevance importance at maintaining the trim and stability, the bulkhead construction, along with the technicalities of the watertight and weathertight doors, the different kinds of the surveys and dry docking, there was a lot of the survey parts, and also the last one was one of my favorite topics, which was the Simpsons rules. And I also noticed that period that only at the week 4, which was the Simpsons period, where we had a calculation process. So as for the midterm period, this is the part where from this point on, I already expected that ship stability related calculations would even go in continuous manner or process and would even go harder as the topics goes by. I even remembered back then that the Simpsons rules would even go much more complicated as it was being applied by the following topics under the midterm period. So the topics that we have discussed and involved that period were the effects of density and slack tanks, followed by the stability at large heels, its calculations of the writing arm and the large heel angles, the list and the final drift, trim related problem situations, and lastly was the draft survey, its dynamic stability at specified heels and angle. So at that period, I also and would never ever forget the hectic solving back then at the draft survey project, the both initial and the final surveys. So at the semifinal, at this part and so on, I nurtured every drop at this particular period, as the topics involved were much more crucial and practical for the future work on board at the sea. So the topics that we had undergone were the wind healing moment, its effect to the transverse stability, and also the icing allowance, the rolling period of the ship, the inclining test calculations of the lightship kg displacement, along with the stressors of the ship, which was the both shear force and the bending moments, and lastly, which was the IMO criteria and its following recommendations, and dry docking grounding during the transverse stability. I also even remembered back then that the project at this semifinal period was even in a calculation period and the illustration part, which was the parabola-like. Lastly, during the final period. So still, this was my most favorite in terms of the topic and the least one on the calculation side, as it got more complicated and much more difficult as for my part as a student. So still, I got a hang of it as we had been taught on a step-by-step process by our beloved instructor. So the first week was also my favorite topic as it was taught into us in detailed and it is vast, which was the importance of maintaining the stability during the loading and unloading period, followed by the during the transit various conditions in connection with the previous one, followed by the damage stability, focusing on the compartments and the countermeasures, and lastly was the countermeasure after flooding to correct and trim, and also its goal to cut the stressors.